Thank you, Ms. Gayathri, for coming to speak to us today. I'll just do a quick introduction and then hand it over to you to present. One second. So yeah, today is a lecture by Ms. Gayathri Venkataraman from Microsoft about her journey in STEM. Ms. Gayathri is leading the program manager organization for the Microsoft Search backend. Her main focus is on the modernization of SharePoint Search and enabling third parties to build on top of Microsoft Search solutions. She has held various technical and management positions in Office 365, Bing Search, and SQL Server products. She's a diversity champion in hiring and retention and allies with her male colleagues in her organization to promote diversity and inclusion. She is a university and industry recruiting ambassador for Microsoft at various events, including the Grace Hopper celebration. Ms. Gayathri has a master's degree in computer information science and engineering from the University of Florida. She lives in Bellevue with her husband and 2 daughters. So I'll hand it over to you, Ms. Gayathri. Thank you for talking to us today.
Thank you, Dia, for the awesome introduction. You guys are doing a fantastic job, I have to say that. So let me go ahead and share my deck. Hopefully you can see it.
Yep, we can see it.
Yeah, okay, awesome. So, I know all of you kids have been like listening to a bunch of technical talks from various members in the industry, so that's really awesome. So instead of talking about Microsoft Search and what I do at work, I thought I'll, do a different pitch. Basically taking myself back to your age and the various decision points that I was actually in and what made me take certain decisions at that time to lead into where I am today. And along the ways, I actually learned a whole bunch of things, which I felt were very valuable lessons. And to a large extent, I even apply them today. So I thought it will be very interesting for you guys. And when I was talking with, some of the interns in my team, they were also mentioning that, hey, Gayathri, you should talk about, the different roles in the tech industry, because majority of them just know about software development. So it might be a good idea to give all the hackathon participants about different roles, so they have a good glimpse of the different roles available in the industry, at least in the hardcore product development companies. So I'm going to be talking predominantly about myself, my journey at Microsoft, different roles in Microsoft. And I have been in a lot of touch with other big companies like Google, Amazon, Facebook. So I have a good glimpse of all of those things as well. So I'll be able to cover them. And, towards the end, I will actually try and leave a lot of time for questions for you people to ask me. And along the way, if you want to interrupt me, I'm totally okay with that as well. Just let me know. Right now, I'm having a little bit of a difficulty technically. I'm projecting from my desktop, from my laptop, and then I'm doing the audio from my phone. So hopefully I can see hands being raised and things like that. So just bear with me. Dia, feel free to interrupt me anytime along the way. So are you all still hearing me?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Ms. Gayathri.
Okay, cool. All right. So just going back, almost 25 years back, maybe even more than that, my school journey. I wanted to mention that I'm a very, very mediocre student until 5th grade. And 6th grade is when I really picked up the passion for learning and really mastering over my materials. And I have to say that I struggled with, a couple of key areas. For example, I was struggling with understanding the concepts in physics. And I was miserably failing. And I actually sought help from my uncle, who was actually a physics major. And he actually spent one full weekend with me to teach me different concepts. And after I understood all of those things, it was a eye-opening experience for me to just go at it. Physics was such an interesting subject after I really understood what they all mean and how you're applying all of those concepts on a day-to-day life. And similarly, I was struggling a lot with stocks and bonds as well. It was in my math class. And again, I actually did not hesitate to seek help from my cousin sister, who spent a couple of hours, talking about various concepts. So it really helped. And in spite of all the struggle, my natural inclination was definitely in science and math subjects. But however, I was very, very, very distracted with what I wanted to pursue. It was a very difficult decision for me. So I decided to explore a bunch of subjects. So I decided to take math. I decided to take science. And, believe me or not, I was also interested in singing. So I was thinking if I should take up singing as my profession. So there were so many options over there. And, I just called a few things as possible options at that time. And came my 12th grade results. And I was actually waitlisted for my medical college program. And that was my first career choice. And I did not get in. So I said okay, you know what? I didn't get in. I don't know what I wanted to do. Then luckily I was able to get into computer science program for my undergrad. And it was my second choice. But, I'm very glad that I actually took that path because I'm realizing more and more that, I'm very passionate about the area that I actually work in. So the lessons during my school time period is, if you're stuck, don't wait, ask for help and move on with whatever opportunity you actually have, because there will be more opportunities that will come up. So those were the big lessons that I actually learned during my school time period that I even apply right now, because the junctions and things like that for making decisions is going to be over and over and over. It's a long journey, and you are going to be able to apply those lessons even after, several years. So then moving into my college time period. So I joined engineering college, and I was totally enjoying learning different concepts and different subjects in my first year of college. And it became very clear for me that, okay, you know what, I am liking it. I do have a very analytical brain. So it really helped me connect all the dots, and I was totally enjoying it. And I said, I'm not going to stop here. I wanted to do masters as well. And, I had the opportunity to study masters in India or in the US. And it was really I just went with the flow. A bunch of my seniors were applying for masters in the US. And at that time period, if you want to go for higher education, US actually had the best programs in place because they also had very intense research opportunities in their programs, sort of incorporated into their programs. And that's something that was very exciting for me. Of course, I was actually getting guidance from so many people that I was actually interacting with at that time period. So that decision was actually pretty easy for me. So I said, I will apply for a master's program. Now, my love for Disney actually grew so much at that time period that I really wanted to specialize in animation and graphics. So I applied for a full bunch of schools, and I got full scholarship only from one college, from University of Florida. Others were all giving me partial scholarship, and financial thing was a very major part of my decision making at that time. So I did not think twice. I just took on the program at University of Florida. And I have to say, I really, really got lucky to be working with Dr. Satasani. He was actually the data structures and algorithms guru, really amazing guy. And the amount of learning that I actually had when I was working with him in his research projects were outstanding. He even pulled me in for working on his book at that time. So it was a lot of experience, lot of learning opportunity. And I just took it all on. Like it was really a great experience, like moving from one country to another, establishing myself in that community, and learning at that time. It was a lot, but it was a fantastic experience and journey for me at that time period. So my, of course, it was nothing to do with animation. That sort of went in the back burner at that time. But my thesis was actually on optimization of shortest path algorithms. So people that are working in coding area, like you will start learning all of these shortest path algorithm concepts and other things pretty soon. So those were the, my journey over there. And what ended up happening after that was a lot of my peer group from University of Florida actually went to Oracle because it's a very heavy database school. A lot of them went there. And I was I was not interested in going to Oracle, neither to Bay Area, nor to the New York City area or New York, the wider New York. So my eyes were actually set on Microsoft. And I was able to get a job at Microsoft with all the, experience that I gained at University of Florida. But I ended up in SQL Server product, which is a database product. And it was an ironic thing, but the problem I actually worked on in SQL Server was very different, and it was very, again, it was focused a lot on learning at the time period. So the lessons that I actually learned during my college time period is basically focus on learning. Don't focus on grades. Grades are really a side outcome. Focus on learning. Understand the concepts, and that particular learning I even apply right now. I focus on learning, and I don't worry about promotions and other things, because seriously, the promotions and other things are a side effect. It will all come. It will come. When you learn, when you stretch yourself, when you stretch your boundaries, when you're learning either technically or when you're learning and improving yourself on soft skill side of it, it's a growth that will actually propel, and it will lead you to the outcome that you eventually want. But don't focus on the outcome at that point. Focus on the learning. What is the skill set that you're learning, etc. So that's what I did, and I'm still applying that. And another interesting learning that I actually had from those days is my family members are not going to be around to help me anymore. They are not there, and they may not even have the context, right? I cannot go and talk to them about algorithms. I cannot go and talk to them about different problems that I'm actually having on my day-to-day activity. So you got to network. You absolutely have to network. You need to find out people with similar interests. And the kind of community that you guys are developing right now is actually outstanding, because, one aspect of it that I will strongly say is, yes, network. Network, outside your comfort zone, go reach out to people from different backgrounds. And also, the population of women and minorities are still, very low. Even though we are all making a lot of work on that front, it's very hard. For example, my daughter is also interested, but wherever she goes, she hardly finds any other girl in the community. So inevitably she just, hangs out with the other gender or other majority group. And she is, taking a lot of strides in finding out minority groups that she can actually connect. So you need to form that network as well from the get-go. All the groups that you guys are forming, see who you're able to click with, and hold on to those friendships, and share your learnings, because you are all going to be stuck at different junctions. Your friends group are something that you can lean on and get some guidance and to make forward progress. So use networking as an important tool right from the beginning. So I would strongly recommend doing that. So then, came my Microsoft journey. So I joined as an engineer in SQL Server. It was ton of design, coding, debugging, lot of late nights. And after 6 years of working there, I decided to work on breadth. What do I mean by that? So when you're an engineer, you're actually focusing on depth. You are going very deep on understanding and coding and implementing certain things. Breadth is about like understanding the business, understanding what the wider customers want, and I decided to focus on that. And after really 5 failed interviews, I actually finally bagged the program manager role in Bing Search. So it was really a big mind shift for me from thinking like an engineer to thinking like a product manager or a program manager. So it's a big shift in how you tackle the problem and how you go about setting the framework for solving the problem. And in subsequent years, like I'm not going to go into the rest of the years because it's too much for you guys. You have to probably think 5 years, maybe a little more than 5 years. So I'm just going to stop my overall learning here. But I just wanted to mention that in subsequent years, I did land on good roles, including Disney, okay, but I did not actually go take that one because priority and other things changed, so I did not actually took on the Disney role. So lessons learned until then was it's really less about you. It is about the teamwork. It's about the collaboration. It's about what you produce as a group that matters more than what you as an individual is actually bringing to the table. Don't get me wrong, whatever you are bringing to the table is important, but the outcome is actually focused on the teamwork as opposed to the individual outcome. Because when you're working as a group, the amount of things that you can produce is a lot bigger, and it's more valuable to the customers when you're actually looking at diverse opinions, diverse way of doing things together. So that was a very, very interesting learning for me very early on in the game. And again, this is a very important learning that I apply even now. So you focus on learning, you focus on delivering for the team. And as part of that, everybody shares credit, everybody is a winner, and everybody shares success. So you got to think about that as well as you go in any of your school projects as well. Like even in college, or maybe even in school, like, in junior and senior year, like you're all going to be working on team projects. Yeah, the teamwork really matters. What you produce as a group matters, actually. And, change is the constant. You all might have actually heard about it. You just go for it. Like, just do your gut check and just go for it. Like, when I got the Disney offer, I was like thinking so much, like, hey, this was my dream job when I was in college. Should I really take it on? Do I feel that I'm going to be working on challenging projects that's going to excite me? And after doing all the pros and cons, I did not take it. So your priorities will change. Your circumstances are going to change. You will have to apply certain formula and figure out what is right for you at that moment. So don't be stuck in the past. And just go with the data that you have at that moment. So recently, I actually celebrated 20 years in tech industry. It's a long time to be in one place. And I'm, in fact, very, very proud of, all my accomplishments in the past. And along those time period, there are 3 key things, absolutely 3 key things that I learned, okay? All the lessons that I learned in the past, they all sort of implicitly, helping me with these 3 primary things, okay? Number 1, passion is absolutely critical for your longevity in anything, okay? Your quest for learning something else could happen, it will change, but be passionate about what you're doing. That's very important. It's the fire inside you. That's the main thing. Number 2 is curiosity. Never ever stop learning. That's the number 2 that I actually learned. Number 3 is drive for results. Like, what is the outcome? Set your eyes on it and focus, make forward progress towards that results that you want to eventually drive, right? So those are the key things that I have learned in my career and has actually helped me like get better and accomplish more, get more responsibilities in my work. And I always share these three things with all the forums that I go and present to. So I just wanted to talk to you kids as well about these three key things. So passion is the key, right? What makes you, wake up in the morning? Like, what is the fire? What really excites you? When you close your eyes, when people are talking about it, about certain topics, what is it that allows you to open your eyes and, makes you think, oh, wow, I think I can connect with that problem. I think I really want to work in that problem. I want to at least learn and see whether that's something that excites me. So that is the kind of fire that it will trigger. So you need to actually figure out what is that fire and what are the areas that is actually triggering you that, passion and that excitement in your life. And identifying that passion is not easy. As you also saw in my background, I was all over. I was like thinking this, that, everything. Like it was very hard for me to focus on one thing and get better at it. And you will be, getting that kind of a distraction along the way, but you need to actually step back and find what is your passion and take forward steps according to that. And keep a track of all of those things, because at every junction, your decision making will be based on the circumstances. Keep a track record of it, because when you go back and look at those notes, it will be very eye-opening for you on, okay, why did I make that decision at that point? And what made me think differently at that point? It will be very eye-opening for being very self-aware. So keep track of that, journal, or however you guys call it, like a simple diary that you just carry with you along the way for keeping track of all of these changes and decision making that you're actually making in your life. And I really love this quote from Oprah Winfrey, which is, follow your passion, it will lead you to your purpose. So a lot of people are like, thinking, okay, what is it that I'm going to do? Like, what am I doing in my life? When you have those questions, the passion is what is going to get you guys grounded. So keep track of, the journal, think about, hear a lot of topics, attend a bunch of talks. There is a whole bunch of YouTube videos also about various topics. Attend keynotes too. Like there are so many conferences out there. Attend keynotes to see what are the areas that really, excites you. It doesn't need to be in tech industry. That's one of the things that I really wanted to mention. It doesn't need to be in tech industry. Like, often I hear from kids, like when I go and, address some of the college kids. Very recently, I went to California to talk in front of the diversity group there. One kid came and told me that, I really don't want to be in computer science. She was actually in final year of college. I really don't like, and she was almost in tears. And I was like, if you're not passionate about it, I'm not sure how you're going to show your excitement in interviews and do your best on a day-to-day job. And, I really took the time after the talk to sit with her and, for 10 minutes. And it was very clear that, she made decision based on other factors to join into computer science. And she is now very clear that this is not what she wanted to do. So my advice is go with what you're passionate about. So all the learning that you did is not going to go waste. Learning is good. Computer science is actually a very, very key pivotal area for all the areas. So I was asking her to explore what other areas that she is actually interested in. And she was actually writing down few areas, and she was continuing, she was going to go and pursue opportunities and those things. So at any given time, do not feel you're stuck. Do not feel you started on something and you have to finish it. Yeah, it is a good idea to finish it, but you have to be passionate. If you're not passionate, you're not going to be able to give your 100%, and you won't get the best learning out of that as well, right? So figure out what your true passion is. Have an open mind that your passion can also change, which is totally fine. Do follow what you think, not the external factors. By that, I mean your friends group, your parents, your teachers. Yeah, they're all here to guide you to find out what your passion area is, but don't follow what they are saying. Follow your heart. That's what is going to keep you successful. Very important, lesson that I really wanted to tell all young kids, that are around me. So the next one that I wanted to say is learning. Like any sort of heat map that you see, learning actually pops up, right? I wanted to mention that curiosity to learn is such an important thing. In the last, several years, that is the only thing that's going to keep you going. You are going to see ups and downs. There is no change in that. During your down, the only thing that will propel you forward is the learning. You have to be excited about, okay, I'm waking up in the morning. What am I going to learn today? Or at the end of the day, what did I learn today? Like, keeping that learning energy going is what is going to keep you going. When I say that thing, I really mean it, because you are all just starting. Keep this lesson in your mind. Even when you're taking decisions about your college or decisions about your next job switch or interviews too. Like, some people might get the opportunity at the first attempt. A lot of people will fail. And what is it that you're learning from that interview? How can you apply that learning in your next thing? So every single step, there is always a learning. And the most important thing that I would say is embrace failure. Absolutely embrace failure. You are going to fail. There is nothing wrong with that. The most important thing that I say is don't let any failure go by without any lessons being learned. If you fail on something, I know it will be very depressing. I have failed myself. It is very depressing. I'm like, man, I've done so much of these things. Why am I not able to crack through this? Why didn't I not, do well on that interview? What did I learn? Why am I not getting that job that I really wanted? So go and introspect. Figure out what did you miss. And that is what is going to make you get better at the next time you're going to attempt at it. So very, very important. And this is a very nice quote that I saw. If you're not willing to learn, no one can help you. And if you're determined to learn, no one can stop you, right? Like in the Indian community, we always say, like, we can only peel the banana and give it to you. You have to eat it at the end of it. We cannot eat on your behalf. So you have to learn, you have to absorb the thing, and you have to take it forward. So very, very important that you should be very determined to learn. Forget, again, I'm very insisting on this. Forget about grades. Forget about, what is the final, whether you got the outcome or not. Eventually keep an eye on your final outcome, but that momentum to keep learning is very important. It will energize you. It will, even a small win will give you that pleasure of, I accomplished this. I got this thing done today. That kind of feeling, hone in on that. It will energize you a lot. Then the next thing that I wanted to say is drive for results. As I said, even if you fail at the intermediate points, keep your eyes on your goal. Like, what is it that you wanted to achieve? Understanding your skill set, whether it is technical skill set or soft skill set, having a good understanding of it is very important in order to reach the final goal that you want. You may actually take detours. What you want to accomplish in 1 year, you may not accomplish it. You may take 2 years, but that really doesn't matter. Really doesn't matter. It's the long journey. If you don't do it now, that's totally okay. Just, keep working on it if that's what you wanted to do, right? Again, I always ask myself, and I tell my daughters as well, like, forget about what happened. Are you making forward progress? Don't dwell too much on the past. It's done. You can't do much about it. The only thing that you can do is learn from the mistakes that I was mentioning in the previous slide. And are you making forward progress? What are the steps you need to do to make forward progress? Very important, for you to be optimistic. Don't dwell too much on it. Stay optimistic and make your next plan. And operate a lot with growth mindset. When I talk about teamwork here, diverse background and other things, for driving for that result, like I'm actually really meaning not just your immediate group that you're very familiar with. Seek. This is where the networking really comes into picture, because when you're actually stuck, when you want to move towards your final goals, getting different perspectives, feedback is very critical. One of the execs at Microsoft mentioned, feedback is the breakfast for champions. It is absolutely true. When you actually want to reach certain outcome, you try to collaborate with various people, network with various people, get feedback on what they see in you. Like, okay, I thought I did a fantastic job. I was so awesome. Like, why did I fail, right? When other people see you, they will actually give you a very different perspective. So collaborate from that angle, and be willing to reciprocate as well. That's why it's a community. Be willing to reciprocate, because they will also be stuck at some point. So you need to be willing to give that feedback to them so you all can grow together, right? So this is a nice quote that I actually saw for Drive for Results. Attitude drives actions. All the things that I talked about. Actions drive results. Results are going to drive the lifestyle that you want, right? It's a very, very important thing. I'm not going to prescribe this is what the right lifestyle is. This is what the other thing is. No, you define your lifestyle. You define what you want, and you take actions and apply the right attitude towards the lifestyle you want, right? So these are the three big lessons that I learned in my last 20 years at my career. And I'm glad to be sharing those three big lessons that I actually learned. And as young kids venturing into this area, all the early on lessons that I was sharing with you during my school year, college year, they are all sort of like, implicitly built into these things. It will actually, if you just go back and look at all of those things, they are all implicit into these three things that I actually talked about. So now switching gears completely, I'm going to talk about different roles, tech roles in Microsoft. And at this point, I will just pause if there are any questions until now, or else I can actually move forward.
You can go ahead and finish your presentation, Ms. Gayathri. We'll just have a Q&A session at the end.
Okay, sounds good. All right. So, people that are working on in school and college, they just feel engineering is the only role available in Microsoft or in tech industry. So software engineering is just one role. That's it. Like there are so many other technical roles and there are so many non-technical roles too. So I'll just give a brief overview of all of those things. So software engineering is a very depth-focused role. Given a requirement or a specification document, how are you going to implement them? What are the technology that you're going to apply to implement them? So that's the main part of that role. It requires a lot of technical acumen to design and optimize the solution, go implement it the best way possible, and getting the code out with high quality. So those are all the very, very important aspects of software engineering. Then there is another set of role called product management or program management. So what Bay Area calls as product management in Microsoft specifically, program management is a mixture of product management, and program management as well. So there we have three different categories. Product management, for example, you take a product like Teams or WebEx. Starting from how are the users going to log in? What are the ways by which the users would want to use the product? Like understanding, like, okay, we need a share capability. Are you going to share when people are sharing or when the presenter is sharing? What is the experience of the audience that are in the call? Is there a mute button? Is there a raise hand button? And when I actually mute, like, will the presenter or with the host be able to unmute the other person? So those are the thought process around product development. How do you develop that product? Like understanding the users, strong user empathy, and figuring out how is the experience going to be. And that's what, product management role is a lot about. That customer obsession, customer empathy, those are the big aspects of it. TPM is technical program management, which is like, there is client experience and there is backend experience. So product managers are mostly in the front line designing the product. And then in the backend, when you think about it, again, there is some level of requirement and specification aspect even for the backend. But a lot of it is actually being a program manager in the technical space. How do you, take that user experience, convert that into a backend capability? And how are you going to make sure that, we have all the hardware that is necessary to power all of these experiences? How are you going to manage a data center? How are you going to, work with different partners to make sure these scenarios are all tied together really well? Because it's not a siloed effect, right? Like it's a teamwork. It's working across organizations, across various teams to make sure that the experience is actually powered really well in a cohesive way. And those are all part of the TPM type role. And there is also security, privacy, compliance roles in the world that we are all moving towards. Customer privacy, enterprise company security, even end users, consumer users security, developing a product in a compliant way. These are all huge beasts. Because if you want to exceed in a product or landing a product in the market, you need to sort of think about all of these big things in order to make sure that the product is landing for a wide audience. For example, in the COVID time period, Teams actually became such a popular product, throughout the country, not just the country, even outside the country. If you think about it, people are confidently using Teams because, we take care of security, privacy, compliance aspects very closely. If you're in this session, somebody else will not be able to understand what is going on in this session. When I'm having a one-on-one conversation with you, our private conversation stays in that private thing. Nobody else can listen to it or see that content later on. So those are the kind of extra care that you take to make sure that you provide that trust or you enable that trust with the consumers or with the enterprise companies to land a product with a wide range of customers. And then there is also project management. A lot of the other companies, and not necessarily in Microsoft, we used to have that thing, but not anymore, is project management, which is just looking at all the things that need to develop, just coordinating the schedules. How are you going to land this thing? And what are the dependencies? And how does the schedule overall line? Suppose you have a conference coming up where you are actually trying to present a product and advertise that. You need to make sure that it's all date driven. Now, how do you work backwards and make sure what you're producing lands by the time period? So that's the important aspect of that role. And as you saw, I started as an engineer and then I moved into program management. So you don't need to be stuck in one role. You may actually develop interest in other roles as well. So this is one set of things. And then the non-technical roles that I can actually think of is there is sales, marketing, and then field engineers, escalation engineers, support. When you think about all of these things, these are all such an important integral part of the overall product cycles, because the product manager is thinking about what needs to be built, what needs to come. Then that translates into like, TPM taking that thing and building the next level of product requirement and specification. Then the software engineers actually go and like, develop all of these things. Then it actually gets to the marketing guys to go and advertise big time about it. Then it goes into the sales guys to go talk more about it on a smaller setup, not in conferences and things like that, right? And then comes like, people are using the product, they will run into bugs, and that's where all the support, escalations, and all of those things come, and you draw a full cycle out of that. So I hope like I'm making sense on different types of roles that are actually available in the tech industry. And as I said, like your soft skills or your personality and your technical inclinations can actually lead to any of these things in the tech industry. Then there are two big parts that I can actually think of: technical leadership and management leadership. All the areas that I talked about, like the full cycle, you can actually be a technical leader. Big companies like Microsoft, Google, Facebook, Amazon, all of these guys actually have a technical ladder. So you don't need to be a people manager in order to keep growing in your career. You can continue to contribute technically and get better at it, and then you can keep growing there. Or you can actually take up people management as your other possibility and grow in the management track as well. The main thing with these two is identifying your skill set, like what is your superpower, in order to decide which one is the right thing for you, right? So these are the things that are very important. Do not think that people management is the only way to grow in your career. It's not. I wanted to make sure that all the people, actually all the kids like you guys, are aware of that aspect of it. Not all people are actually people managers. If you really think about people managers, there are only few of them, and there are a lot of technical leaders. And if you want to be a super technical leader, again, there isn't a lot of people, but you need to figure out what is it that you're good at in order to figure out which path you can actually take. So those are all the things that I wanted to share, and that is the end of my presentation, and I will probably leave for time for questions now.
Yeah, Ms. Gayathri, as you said, this presentation was beyond technical experience. So thank you for sharing all those life lessons. So I just wanted to like summarize all the lessons that you shared. So one was to ask for help and be ready to fail, and to move on and focus on learning rather than grades. And then to start networking, and it's not about you, but your teamwork. And you also said to embrace change. And you said to like focus on your passion and your curiosity to learn and your drive, and to listen to feedback when you're looking for some career or options. So each of like everything that I said makes so much sense, and I'm really glad that you shared it and it clarified for most of us, and we all will remember it and go for it. So we have quite a few questions for you. So I'll get started with one. I'll get started with one from the chat. It was they had a question about route. Like if you are failing at something, but you still can't understand the lesson, do you keep trying or do you turn your back to something else?
It depends on your passion. For example, I will tell you, there are a couple of possibilities. One, you're truly passionate about something, right? So you failed 1 or 2 times, you can go and give it a 3rd attempt or even a 4th attempt. But as part of that lesson, if you are learning that you are not getting better at the skill set that is required to get past that, step back. Step back and think, are you really good at this one? Am I actually chasing after something because I really want to, but I'm not good at it? So there are 2 paths you can actually take, right? One, focus on getting better, right? Really focus on getting better. That should be your only goal, so you can make that come. Or you step back, you know what, I don't think I'm going to be good at it. Why am I even beating myself up? Maybe there's something else that I am like, good at, and I will just go ahead and do that part. For example, in the technical leadership and the people management aspect of it that I was sharing, it's a classic problem that people actually just beat themselves up. For example, they always think people management is the only way to move forward. So they keep trying and they fail at it. But when you really see them when they are working on certain things, I see some of the engineers are amazing when it comes to technical challenges and how they are actually, solving it. And so just giving them the information or feedback for them to go pursue being a technical leadership is actually very important. So if most of the time they should do the self-awareness themselves and make that decision. Sometimes if you are seeing that somebody else is struggling with that, help them out. I think what you give comes back to you. When you are stuck, they will actually come back and help you. I have been blessed in my life with so many of these friends. I go offer all of these help to various people, and when I am stuck, I do get all of those information for me as well to get unstuck to move forward. Yeah.
Thank you. And you mentioned having passions other than STEM, like singing. Did you learn anything from following those other passions as your hobbies that were useful in your career?
Oh, that's a great question. That's a fantastic question. Yes, so to be very honest, I was actually good at singing. I didn't cover my entire 20 years of journey, but within the last 5 years, I was seriously contemplating whether I should quit tech industry altogether and just go singing full time. Okay. Then this is the previous decision-making thing is exactly what I applied in my decision-making process. Yes, I am good at it, but can I really compete with all the other top singers that are out in the market? Or do I feel that it is just giving me that inner peace and I should just consider that as a serious hobby? Meaning it's a good extracurricular hobby for me that gives me that mental peace when I'm so stressed about work. And so that thought was super clear to me. And when I applied the logic of, am I going to be good at this? Am I going to really rock the world with my singing abilities? Do I have the right skill set? No. I said no, I don't have it. I could be good. I might make a little bit of a dent, but where can I make the most dent? I said it's going to be in the tech industry. When I talk about being a diversity champion and things like that, I don't just say it. I really mean it. I want girls like you, minority people like, many segments in our industry to take the industry forward in a direction that the previous generation did not take. There is so much to accomplish. And I felt that's where I can apply my fire and energy on to propel these kids to move forward. Because some of the conversation I have with college kids when I'm interviewing them and things like that is really good. What I learned 6 years after being at workforce, these kids are actually asking when they are at college, which means when they are coming into the workforce with the same level of passion and energy, they might be able to drive the change much faster than what I was able to make. And that's where I decided to inspire and motivate people to go and start that action towards that change that you want much earlier, right? So I said singing is good. I still do singing. It's just my serious extracurricular hobby. I do performances in various places. But I said I'm not going to get super awesome at it, in that area.
Thank you. And I think Shruti had a question.
Yeah. What do you think makes your career the most interesting?
It is truly the learning. I have to say that the learning is the one that actually keeps it so exciting. Part of the reason why I did not move out of Microsoft is also the hard challenges and the learning opportunity that I have with Microsoft. The company actually solves so many big problems, and I'm just surrounded with intellectually so stimulated individuals that when I go for any conversation with them, I always come out with a little bit of an enlightenment. And that's what keeps me going in this space. So it comes to the learning that I was telling you. The learning is the one that keeps me going every day.
I had a question. What is your favorite part about being a program manager?
What is the question, Anvi? What about program management?
What is your favorite part about being a program manager?
Oh, favorite part. Sorry, I didn't hear you very well. Okay, the favorite part of program management, I'll tell you. So yes, customer empathy is one aspect of it. Understanding what your customers want is a big part of it. But the most thing that really excites me is interaction with people. So I draw energy by interacting with people. Like, the interpersonal skills and the people skills that I have, I realize that is, I'm really good at it. I'm really good at it. And I can actually talk with people very easily. I can understand what their problems are, and they open up and tell me what their problems are. And as part of that conversation, I'm able to understand their issues, pain points really well. And even at workplace, it's the same thing. Like I talk with so many of my engineers and my colleagues, like they do open up to me and say, this is my problem. Can you please help me solve it? So I use my people skills to go find out what troubles them and go solve those problems for them. So it is really less about me, nothing about me. I just, try to do the right thing for the product and use my people skills as a tool set or a vehicle or a weapon to connect with them to achieve the best results possible for the product, right? So this aspect of product management is something that I totally enjoy. Though the primary thing is actually the customer empathy. I do have that as my secondary thing, a favorite part as well.
What is your most memorable moment while working at Amazon?
You mean at Microsoft?
Oh, sorry, Microsoft. I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay. The most memorable one. I was telling you about failing 5 times in my interview when I was trying to switch from engineering to program management. That is still a memorable and favorite part for me, because I will tell you what happened. It's a little story. So I went for all of these interviews. I miserably failed. And I was finding out, how can I fail? I actually solved all of these things. What am I missing? And then when I tapped into my network and I went and asked, hey, here is the problem they asked, and here is how I answered it. What is wrong with this approach? They told me that you need to actually look at it from this angle. This should be a frame of thought process. Because being an engineer, you think about the problem differently. Being a program manager, you think about the problem differently. That was such an eye-opening and favorite part for me. I went and documented a whole approach for how to solve problems. And I went back to the interviewer who actually, rejected me. I got time with him. And I actually said, hey, can you please spend 15 minutes with me? I wanted to go and solve the same problem again with you with the new approach that I learned. And he said, this is much better than what you actually answered me at the time. So, and I actually applied that in my documentation when I wrote it, because I wanted to share that same knowledge with other people. And I actually helped a lot of them move from engineering into program manager with that new framework that I actually developed. So to this date, that moment I still remember, because it was such a depressing moment. But I said, forget it, forget about the past. I have to move forward, and I have to find out how I can crack through that, approach and the interview. And this is what I found. So that's still my favorite part.
One more question. How did your interest in other STEM fields impact the approach you took to STEM?
So I was telling you when I was in 12th grade, like, I had a bunch of STEM related interest. It does influence. It does influence me. For example, sometime like maybe 10 years back or something like that, I was thinking, hey, should I go into the healthcare segment, for example? So I have been in the tech industry for some time. Healthcare is something that I'm passionate about. Should I go and like explore that? So I do get influenced by these thought process. To be very honest, I think about it even now. Maybe after I make some more big dent in the Microsoft Search product that I'm working on right now, I really want to get this thing through. I'm really focused on getting the results out of this work that I'm currently doing at Microsoft. Maybe in the future, I will think about healthcare. I don't know. Again, like, every time when you make that decision, there is a bunch of parameters you apply. And then you actually make the best decision possible at that time using all the, ingredients that you have at that point. So you never know. You might actually, see that I'm into healthcare, but I won't go out of tech. So it will be in a combination with tech with something else.
Yeah, I think merging the fields are cool. If you never got waitlisted for medical school, do you think your life would be different, or do you think you would have still found your way to computer science?
That's a fantastic question. Actually, I also ask about it. So it is very, very hard to figure out what could have happened. But I can see myself inclined towards doing some aspects of tech. Maybe I wouldn't be developing software, but I might actually be the user of the software. But I can see myself, even if I have picked a different field, I would have been a tech-savvy person regardless. I would have definitely used some aspects of tech in other fields too. That's why I was telling you all that say sometime in the future, you're starting with tech, you are actually venturing out into something else. Tech will still be at the hub of everything that you're doing. It will be, because that's the direction the entire world is moving. Whichever direction you go, tech will be at the center. So whatever you're applying right now, whatever you're learning right now, will be very useful, regardless of the field you're actually going to eventually take.
What was the hardest thing you had to overcome out of everything you went through?
The hardest thing that I have to overcome. It's an interesting question. I have never thought about it. What is the most hardest thing that I went through of all the things? Actually, it's when I was actually in Florida, I was actually studying here by myself. Like I did not have family, like I did not have brothers or sisters here. I had a couple of cousins who were actually in the US. I was terribly homesick, but it is truly my drive that kept me going. At that time, like my tuition was taken care of. My salary was like, $750. And of that $750, I have to take care of, apartmental rent, your utilities bill, your phone bill. At that time, we did not have WhatsApp or any of these free software available. I used to spend $250 just on phone bill. That was my highest expenses. So I was like terribly homesick because all along I was actually at home, and it was very hard for me to leave my entire family, very supportive family, behind and do, what I was trying to do here. While I was at school, I did not feel much because I was learning. I was excited about like what I was learning constantly. But when I go back to my apartment, it was very hard for me to just be by. I had a roommate. She was very nice. No complaints about my roommate. But I still missed my family a lot. That 2 years was very hard until I actually landed in Seattle, then formed my own family. It was very hard for me to miss my family. That's probably the hardest thing that I actually had to go through in my life. Like at every point, like I would think whether I should go back to India or not. But I said, like, I'm going to stay here and like, do what I'm doing because I'm really passionate about what I'm doing.
So I had another question. As you talked about the importance of curiosity, what is something new that you want to learn?
What are the some of the new things you learned?
That you want to learn.
Oh, what are the new things that I want to learn? Got it. So in terms of tech, like the place where I am, right? So I already manage a big area, and for me to go further, I have to take on much bigger strategic efforts, right? So I wanted to go and figure out, okay, what is next for me? What are the biggest challenges that I need to take? And I'm already making steps towards that. I'm actually like, applying myself in a much bigger problem. And I'm actually able to rally, mobilize, all the resources and others towards that, common problem. So for me, particularly, it's more, lot bigger strategic impact is what I want to, learn in terms of my own, personal growth.
Thank you so much for your time, Ms. Gayathri, and for taking all the questions that we have. And good luck to keep on inspiring everyone else as well. So we had a lot of questions, and because of the time limit, we had to limit them. But I hope it's okay to send you the other questions we have over email.
Sounds good. Just send it over to me ASAP. Like I'll try to respond them today itself. So everybody that is part of the hackathon gets inspired to do more. And rock on, people. Like seriously, just get excited, draw energy from people like you, do more of it, and I can't wait to see what this generation is going to bring to the tech industry in the future.
Thank you, Ms. Gayathri, and thank you for coming to speak to us today.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Thank you, guys. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.